Hello there folks, so today's video is on Times Like These, the acoustic version of the song by the Foo Fighters. I'm going to be kind of referencing three videos that are also available on YouTube. One is Dave Grohl's own version where he's playing in a studio with a piano. One is the Live Lounge All-Star version, that was the BBC, which I think was probably done during the quarantine, and then the quarantine edition itself, which was definitely done during the quarantine. Now each of these versions is slightly different, have different parts in different places. So what I'll do is I'll go through the Dave Grohl version and then I will look at how they differ and also show you some alternative chords. So in the first case, I will start off with the easiest version of the chords that are in the song, and then we'll kind of build on it from there with a few variations of the chords that I think that he uses. So in the actual song, there's the introduction that has this, which is hammering on with a D chord, a D, I'm going to say D ninth, but it might very well not be. Now the version on the acoustic version is doing a similar kind of thing, but using a hammer on with a D chord. So a D chord on my guitar and my yellow dots here, and I'm playing on the 2nd fret of the G string, 2nd fret of the E string, and the 3rd fret of the B string. And the hammer on is on the first, using your first finger on the G string. So you're hammering off an open G to an A note. Now the pattern is, so on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on. Now the David Grohl version uses that quite a lot. He does it between the bits of the verse, at the end of the verse, and in various places. So if you hear that being played, that's what played. He also plays that 3 times at the beginning of the song as an introduction. And it's also used in some of the other versions, but it's more prevalent in David Grohl's version. Now the actual chords for the verse, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the simplest versions first, and I'm going to give you some variations that I think he's actually using, but we'll do the easiest ways to play them first, and then we'll build on it from there. So the first chord obviously is D. I am a one way. And then you do A minor 7. A minor 7 is the 1st fret of the B string and the 2nd fret of the D string. So it's like an A minor chord, but with this finger off. So it's got a G in it, which is what makes it a 7th chord. So A minor 7. Then a straightforward C chord, which are the pink dots on my guitar. So 1st fret of the B string, 2nd fret of the D string, and 3rd fret of the A string. And then a 1-finger chord, which is E minor, but with just 1 finger on, like that. I better use my 2nd finger, which is the 2nd fret of the A string. And then back to the D. So it goes D, A minor 7, C, E minor 7, and back to the D. Now, like I say in the David Grohl version, he often plays this hammer-on pattern when he gets the D before the next part of the verse. Then for the chorus, he is playing a C, which is the same C, E minor 7, which is that 1 finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, back to the D, and again I think is doing hammer-ons when he's playing the D. So tell by how I'm singing that I don't really know the words. And there you go. Nobody's perfect. And that is pretty much what he is doing throughout the song, apart from a bit in the middle where he plays a kind of a D, a C, along with the part of the D, a B along with part of the D. So that is, the first chord is just a straightforward D chord. The second chord you're just keeping your 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and you're using your 2nd finger to play the 3rd fret of the A string. And then you use your 1st finger, you move from that one with your 2nd finger on the 3rd fret to your 1st finger on the 2nd fret, still keeping this finger on the 3rd fret of the B string, and back to D. Now that's technically kind of a C ninth, because that's a D note. The C chord, and then really a G chord, but just using the B part of that G chord. So instead of playing a full G chord, you're just going down to that second fret of the A string. So he does a kind of hit like that. Whereas I think the second time he plays it, he does the C, then the B, then changes back to the C before going back into the D again. And from that point on, he just kind of sings out the chorus with the usual David Grohl intensity, if you like to put it that way. So you just kind of get basically louder and shoutier as the song goes on. So to repeat that, so that's a D with a down to a C, 2-finger C chord, 2-finger B, well, G chord, but just with the B and the D, and then back to D. So that's the simplest way to play it. Now, what I think he's actually doing when he's playing the chord is he's doing a variation of the A-7, which he's putting his pinky on the 3rd fret of the top E string, which is also a G. So it kind of makes it more of an A-7 chord, if you like. Emphasizes the G. And then when he plays the C chord, he's keeping that finger on, which is also a G, which is then in the C chord as well. So it's, you know... And then when he changes from the A-7 to the C, he passes on the B note on the 2nd fret of the A string. So he goes... So he kind of hits that B, keeps everything else where it is, up to the C. So for that part, these 2 fingers stay on these notes. 1st finger on the 1st fret of the C string and pinky on the 3rd fret of the high E string. And actually that one stays as well, what we're talking about, because obviously, you know, that's in the C chord. But as he's passing, I think he's using his 2nd finger to play that B. So what's probably happening is the underside of his finger is killing that note, so you can't hear it, but it gives it that kind of, it's just like a passing, it's like it's a transition from one chord to the other. So it's A-7, B, C. Now I don't think he could keep his pinky on there for the E-7 as well, but I think in the verse he's not. He's just playing that 1-finger version there because you can hear that that note drops down. But in the chorus, I think he's doing that. In times like these, he's keeping his finger on there the whole time. So he's doing, well, not for the D chord. He's doing a C with that on, 3rd fret of the high E string. He's doing an E-7 with that note on the 3rd fret of the high E string, and then back to it. No doubt having them as well. But you can play the simpler versions of the chords and they work perfectly fine, and they are those chords. It's just like I say, you can play various variations. I mean, for A-7, rather than having this finger off, you can actually just play an A minor and stick that note on top of it to make an A-7. But I think he's doing both the G's, so that chord there. And that's really the whole song, apart from in the other versions, the Live Lounge version and the Celebration Day, they start off with that D to C, and when they do the B, they do that pass up to C again. So they do the D chord like that, straightforward D chord, the C chord, which is your 2-finger chord, 3rd frets of the A and B string, 2nd fret of the A string with your finger on the 3rd fret of the D string, back up, so it goes D, C, C9 if you like, B, C, D, and they're also doing that on the Celebration Day version. Now there is a little part that somebody's playing along with that you don't ever see the person playing it on the piano. It goes... David Grohl's version, I think that part's being played on the piano, but it's just like a little kind of melody that goes along with the D, C, B section. So you're starting on the 3rd fret of the B string, going down to the 1st fret of the B string, then down to the 2nd fret of the G string. So that's the D chord, kind of notes from the D chord. And then you're going to play the 3rd fret of the high E string, and then the 2nd fret of the high E string. So it goes 3, 1, 2, 3, 2. And that plays goes. And that's pretty much it. Now, some of them, the Live Lounge and the Quarantine version. Sorry, for some reason I've got in my head there's the Celebration version. The Quarantine version does some hammerings on, but I think basically if a version you choose to play along to, maybe have a listen and see if you can tell where it is. Obviously, if you want to do it, you can do it, even if they're not doing it on the version. But that's basically kind of the variations of all the different versions.